Quick warning before the video starts. If I asked 9 out of 10 people who are at least semi-knowledgeable on gaming culture on what's the Evilest video game studio, I'd probably get a host of different valid responses. EA for the number of times they've sacrificed gameplay, all to nickel and dime their customers. Nintendo for making sure anybody who pirates a 40-year-old game gets the death sentence. Or Activision Blizzard, who had a hotel room dedicated to Bill Cosby called the Cosby Suite, where they would bring female coworkers and give them drinks in the hopes that they would sleep with them. Oh, but look over there! Tracer's a lesbian! As I said, all of those are valid answers. But what if I told you that there was a development studio that expressed the goal of spreading hatred and indoctrinating gamers into hate groups? This is a video about Ethnic Cleansing, the game made by a studio of white supremacists. So how did we get here? Well, let's start with the hate group behind the game, the National Alliance. Founded in 1974, this was a group that branched off from another right-wing party, which had already branched off of another right-wing party, led by a man named William Luther Pierce, who would soon be known for his world-famous book. The book I'm referring to is The Turner Diaries, a book known for inspiring multiple tragedies such as the Oklahoma City bombings, alongside other hate crimes as recently as 2015. In short, the plot of the book is that it's the journal of the main character, Earl Turner. Each of his entries describes how he and his fellow insurgents plan to overthrow the US government. And start a race war in the US, which will eventually take over the world. Spoiler alert, he wins, and the world is run by white supremacists. The reader is supposed to believe that this was a happy ending, and that Earl is a good guy. This utopia has all non-white individuals in the US, and an extent the world, exterminated. Puts women's rights all the way back to when they were viewed as property, and the US military becomes no more. Also, it brings up that Asia has sent a bunch of nukes, and everyone there becoming a mutant. To say the least, you probably won't be seeing this read at your local book club. So with such a stand-up guy being the leader, what could possibly go wrong? Well, a lot. But let's bring this back to video games. In the 90s, times were tough for neo-Nazis. Thanks to civil rights overcoming enormous hurdles in the past, along with rap and hip-hop giving disenfranchised black voices mainstream attention, racism was no longer hip with the kids. So, in retaliation, the National Alliance started to create media outlets to find radical ways to appeal to radical people. Their first venture was Resistance Records back in 1993, a record company made for racists by racists. The record label produced a lot of black metal, which is ironic given this company hates most things that are black. This record company was bought out by another white supremacist record company. Yeah, there are multiple. And in 2000 became part of a mega conglomeration of white power record labels. They also had several attempts at creating white power radio stations, all to varying success. Finally, in the early 2000s, they had a new idea. Since music didn't work out, what would be the best way to appeal to the new generation? At this point, video games were huge with young males. Not just any young males, however. Young, lonely males who spent a lot of time isolated from others. Their goal was to create a downloadable computer game so that they could spread the teachings of their leader. Of course, there's one caveat. Who's going to help them with this? I mean, it's not like you can just make a Craigslist post saying, calling all racist game developers. Maybe if you had more women around the office, Blizzard might help out, but the only people who were going to help them were themselves. So that's exactly what they did. They picked themselves up by the bootstraps and began working on the best damn asset-flipped generic FPS you could think of. To those not in the know, asset flipping is the process of purchasing multiple video game models from somewhere, like Unreal Engine or Unity, and using them with little or no change in the final product. Most of the time when someone purchases a model, you're going to have to stylize it to fit within your game. Start changing some features so that your game doesn't look like something from the Switch eShop. Alternatively, you could purchase said asset, then drop it in your game unedited for a quick buck. So after some time asset flipping and buying a developer kit, on January 21st, 2002, the National Alliance hexed the world with this buggy shitpiece. So upon booting up the game, you're blessed with seeing your beautiful house, which is a block with nothing except some messed up stairs and a couple of posters. One poster reads, "Missing, a future for white children." Upon leaving, your house is so ghetto, your doorway is 12 feet tall with no door. You're immediately given an American welcome by being gunned down the minute you step foot outside. Now, I'm not going to play the audio here as it's not great, but in case this game was a bit too subtle for you, all the African American people in this game don't talk. Instead, they make monkey noises, According to TV tropes, they advertise that charming, and the music in the background is provided by the aforementioned Resistance Records, with lyrics like, I think you get the point. The game gives you the option of letting you play as either a Klansman or a skinhead.
What's the difference?
You're tasked with wiping out the city of all black people, all Mexicans, and all Jews, until you get to the final boss, who's a cartoonishly evil version of... Who the hell is this? Oh, great. All the while, you're cheered on by Pierce, who appears on television all over the place. Kind of odd, considering this is a black neighborhood, but whatever. Try not to be too shocked when I tell you this game wasn't received well by anyone. Not only is this game's distasteful and downright offensive content way too much of a turnoff for normal human beings, but even if you're racist, this game is horrendous in every aspect. The graphics are terrible, with some models pulled straight from a pre-alpha N64 game. The controls are laughably appalling, the environments are bland when they're not outright racist, more bugs than the Amazon rainforest, and the fact they charged money for this piece of shit is almost more offensive than the game itself. Oh yeah, they charged actual money for what you see on screen. How much? $14.88. This is because 14 has some significance to the white supremacists' 14 words slogan, and 88 isn't the number 88, but instead 2 8s. Convert the numbers into letters, and they turn into HH, which stands for Heil... you know who. Reference or not, $15 for a game that's far worse than some free games on Roblox is nothing short of a scam. Despite the negative criticism, the National Alliance created a sequel, a game by the name of White Law, where you play as an Irish-American police officer who, quote-unquote, protects his neighborhood by, well, you guessed it. According to Wikipedia, the game is partially based on the Turner Diaries, expanding the lore of the white supremacy extended universe. So now for the million-dollar question. What happened to the National Alliance? Well, first, after White Law failed to gain the same notoriety as Ethnic Cleansing, the organization has, thankfully, yet to release another video game. In 2002, William Pierce died of a heart attack, and what followed was pure chaos within the organization. The position of leader was given to Eric Glebe, whose rise to power led to a struggle amongst the high-ranking members. This led to Resistance Records being boycotted, and an editor for a magazine called The National Vanguard, named Kevin Strom, wrote an article about his tyrannical reign, which he literally idolizes the most famous dictator in modern history. I don't know how you never expected this. Long story short, this huge internal scuffle led to a group of members to split off and form the National Vanguard organization. Kevin Strom was later busted for owning CP. He pleaded guilty, but also claimed he didn't mean to have all 10 pictures on his phone. The organization bled members until Glebe confirmed that as of 2013, they were no longer an organization, leaving Ethnic Cleansing to be the reason people remember them today. A craptastic FPS so vile, even would call it a bit much. And that's the story of the most evil developer in video game history. While I'm sure some of you have heard of their game before, I'm not sure how many of you were aware that this was a project made with genuine hatred in mind. Before looking into it, I thought it was just some project from an edgy 14-year-old on Newgrounds. Looking at the footage, can you blame me? You're telling me people paid money for this? Thanks to this guy for all the footage. I sure as hell am not going to try and get it myself. That, along with the research needed for this video, probably would have had the feds raise a couple eyebrows. Of course, my homework folder alone has probably put me on a couple lists. I probably shouldn't be joking about that as a YouTuber. Well, thanks for watching. Should YouTube not completely hide this video in fear of it not being advertiser-friendly, not like I get ads anyway, I'd be eternally thankful. With all that said, bye for now.